too easy to vandalize. And by the way, if you're maintaining my page, I appreciate your kindnesses because I do not do that myself.
That's a bad idea.
First name, Jason Garrett. With under 6 minutes left in overtime, Bomani, the Cowboys coach did decide to punt on 4th and 1 with the ball on the Houston 42-yard line. 8 plays later, of course, the Texans won. Let's watch how this all went down.
I feel like we gave away the punchline. But
we did.
That's 3rd and 1.
Yep.
Now, after the game, Jason Garrett said they didn't go for it on 4th and 1 because it was a long one. And to be fair, it was a long one.
It was. It was literally one.
And then this happened.
Deshaun Watson.
Hit circle.
Marches.
They're right there. Hit circle.
Yep.
Hit it again.
Oh, the double circle.
Yeah.
Leading to
the
field goal and the defeat.
Yeah, he ain't clapping there, is he?
No, despite what Wikipedia may suggest,
he's not clapping either.
Saddy McSatterface as this unfolds. Okay, so if you ran the Cowboys and all of that happened, how would you view all of that?
Well, Jerry Jones runs the Cowboys, and he said that was a time to take risk. Like, one thing about a dude like Jerry Jones, you don't make your money in oil being afraid to make big moves. That's just not the way that it works. And on that one, you've got to go for it. I understand the Cowboys' percentages on these and one plays is not that great, but with your defense being as exhausted as it clearly was by that point, you got to try to win it right there, and they blew it.
That was ultra-conservatism by Jason Garrett, and it's not just ultra-conservatism by the standards of Frank Reich and Sean McVay. This is ultra-conservatism by the standards of the rest of the league. By down in distance, The Athletic had a great piece about this. 79% of the league goes for that. They make it 68% of the time. So even leave aside the fact that you have a top 5 draft pick in Zeke Elliott and you got an offensive line that is wildly paid, you still, by the standards of the NFL, should go for that.
Well, two sides to that, right? We can say what the rest of the league does, but the rest of the league are not the Dallas Cowboys, right? So, like, the numbers about the large sample to me don't hold on the smaller one, because the smaller samples, like, as it goes for the Cowboys, not necessarily in their favor, except for one thing. In overtime, the ball is more important than field position, right? If you've got a chance to hold the ball, you hold the ball. Why? Because you saw what happened when it went back in the other direction. But look, man, this is a referendum on Garrett, and the real question is, why does he still coach them? This has been an unremarkable about 8 years and change that they've had since he's been there. Why is he still the guy in charge? Tell me one good thing about Jason Garrett being in charge other than he gets along with Jerry Jones.
That is it. It is comfort. There is inertia, and that seems to be as good a reason to keep your job in Cowboys.
Not even comfort. It's that Jerry likes him.
Yes.
Slightly different thing. Slightly different thing. Next name is Odell Beckham. Giants fell to 1-4 yesterday, but the biggest news came before the game. Beckham sat down for an unfiltered interview with Josina Anderson and Lil Wayne. Huh. I mean, what could go wrong, right?
Do you have an issue at quarterback then?
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like he's not going to get out the pocket. He's not. We know Eli's not running. How come we can't throw the ball for more than 20 yards? How come
the
we
answer
don't
is yes.
attempt or try to throw the ball for more than 20 yards?
Why don't you just say yes?
I don't get 20 targets like some other receivers.
So I want you to be honest. Are you truly happy in New York?
It's a tough question.
The dude on the right is 36 years old, by the way. Pablo, Giants got a problem here?
I was going to say, if you're the Giants and you ask, well, was at least his agent there? No, but Lil Wayne was. That seems like an all-around nightmare because, Bomani, Odell Beckham Jr. is a problem insofar as the Giants have a problem with somebody basically taking the reality television school of leadership and implementing that into the NFL. He is deliberately competitive, he is deliberately aggressive, and he is deliberately public. If you don't want your issues out into the world, this was the wrong guy to sign to a long deal.
Well, I mean, have we had anything like this before, though? Like, I don't feel like...
This feels special.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, we don't really have a precedent to indicate you should have known he was going to schedule his own interview and not tell the team about it, and he was going to show up with Lil Wayne, right? I understand them not saying that. I don't think the Giants, as football players, necessarily have a problem with it. Hell, they talk about this galvanize the team. Right? That's what they say. Okay, the Giants, like, as an institution, the guys that own the team, oh, no. This is not what you want. But you raise a point about leadership. can you lead from wide receiver? Like, how can you lead from a position where you're so dependent upon everyone else?
Right.
And how has Odell Beckham gotten this far in life thinking that just because something is true, you should say it out loud?
Right, and Odell, to be clear, was the one who said there would be galvanization. We have to see whether the teammates follow on that. But your point about the wide receiver stuff is dead on, because Odell talked about how he looked across the league and saw wide receivers complain when they didn't get their way. This seems to be not just him, but that's how the position kind of litigates its
Well, they have
issues.
to. Also, Eli is whack.
Yeah, the 20-yard thing has a point. The Chiefs. Pat Mahomes and his squad toasted the Jaguars' league-best defense yesterday, 30-14. The Chiefs started this same way last year before they lost 6 of their next 7 games. But have you seen enough to say that this team is a Super Bowl contender?
I mean, they're a Super Bowl contender. We'll say that. That being said, they look like a Super Bowl contender because their defense looked pretty good, except I don't know if their defense looked pretty good or Blake Bortles looked like Blake Bortles, right? Because, look, it is encouraging for the Chiefs that they can win a game like this when Mahomes does not play especially well. Did not throw a touchdown, had 2 interceptions, right? This was not about what the offense did. This was about Blake defense,
Yeah,
Blake Bortles, right? For the Chiefs, they're looking at Blake Bortles. They're like, the best defense is a good offense, and our best offense is when Blake Bortles throws us the ball.
The Jaguars defense after this game said many things that would make the Chiefs feel good about themselves. I mean, they did say the AFC, it'll run through here, not New England. They did say that this is the best offense they saw in the league. And then also they did that. But if you're looking at Blake Bortles, Bo, the catch-22 for the Jaguars is that he does stuff like this, but he kind of alternates, or at least he has alternated this year, with good games. He'll run over the Patriots, then be terrible. He'll run over the Jets, and then do this. This is the boom and bust of a guy that, yes, is maddening to have to root for.
But the problem is, a one-for-one trade is not sufficient at this level. What you're describing is Rex Grossman. Now, we have seen a team get to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman, but what we're saying here is best case scenario for this dude is Rex Grossman. That is not a yeah, but sort of scenario, right? No, you got Rex Grossman. Nobody looks at that and is like, okay, but that's good some days, because some days isn't enough for the level of what it is they want to pull off. In order for the Jaguars to be as good as they want to be or to win a Super Bowl, they got to trust that dude won't mess it up for at least 3 straight playoff games. Do you have any reason to believe that this dude can go 3 straight playoff games without messing it up?
I think they can make the AFC title game and then probably lose.
So the answer was no.
Probably not.
Okay. Next name is Khabib Nurmagomedov. After dominating Conor McGregor for 4 rounds, resulting in a submission victory, Khabib became enraged at something a friend of Conor said and jumped out of the octagon. Called the ruckus. Look at that ruckus. Well, at least as much as ruckus as we can. Yeah, I mean, what McGregor doesn't seem to understand here is he thinks all this stuff is funny. That guy does not.
To be clear, Khabib has not lost a round in the UFC yet. He has not lost a round.
This is where we lose video, by the way. You just have to look at the most absurd stills that we can find. Yeah, that's what it looks like when you catch an L.
A submission leading to
that.
A refusal to submit.
Now, Pablo, what should the UFC do about all this?
I mean, we look at this, Bo, and on the one hand, this stuff seems worthy of a criminal investigation of some kind. But Conor McGregor says he is not pressing charges, so that removes that part of the equation. And so if you're the UFC, you kind of got to do the thing where you're ceremonially very, indignant that all of this bad stuff is happening, and secretly you say, this is going to make us a ton of money.
Yeah, maybe, but you cannot have people jump in the crowd. Like, in the end, they do have to do something that makes it clear, guys, you cannot jump in the crowd. Now, this is what Khabib had to say after the fight, and I think what he has to say here is worth listening to.
Like, I don't understand how people can talk about I jump on the cage, What about he talk about my religion, he talk about my country, he talk about my father. He come to Brooklyn and he broke bus. He almost killed a couple people. What about this? You cannot talk about religion. You cannot talk about nation. Guys, you cannot talk about this stuff. And this is, for me, is very important.
Now, that is an important point, though. If you are not allowed to punch people in the face, then you cannot allow people to say things that make it justifiable to punch them in the face. And that is what Dana White's going to have to deal with. He can deal with Khabib all he wants, but he's got a guy who thinks it's okay to say whatever it is just to sell the fight. You can't have that if you don't want this.
And yet I don't know how you rein Conor McGregor in, even though everything you're saying is reasonable. He talked about oligarchs, he talked about Islam, he talked about all of the hot button issues that result, honestly, in other circumstances, in worse things than a guy jumping off of the cage. And by the way, maybe the solution to the cage is to make it more cage-like. Like it's a little bit too easy to get in and out of that.
I mean, I imagine you have to put a door on it, right? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to design a cage that nobody can get out of? That goes past being
just get a key on
cage.
it, maybe.
Oh,
Put a key on the door. That would solve the whole problem, wouldn't it?
What?
That guy couldn't jump.
You can download the High Noon podcast on Apple Podcasts or the ESPN app, Bomani's too. I also have one, just in case you were wondering.
Geico has over 75 years of great savings and service. With such a long history, it's easy to trust Geico. Thank you, Todd. It's not just easy. It's being a master of hypnotism.